I recently uploaded a video explaining why countries fight trade wars and what it takes to win them. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend checking it out. While researching that topic, I kept wondering, what happens if we apply that framework to the ongoing trade war? So, in this video, we're going to take a closer look at what Trump has done and evaluate whether he's likely to win or lose this war. Let's start with a quick refresher. One of the key conclusions from the previous video was that the winner of a trade war isn't the country that inflicts the most damage. It's the one that is the most resilient and most effectively protects its long-term interests. And to do that, several factors come into play. First, there has to be a clear strategy. Countries that know what they're fighting for and can stick to their plan tend to come out ahead. Democracies are disadvantaged here due to the need to maintain public support, while authoritarian regimes can often weather economic pain without facing the same political consequences. Legitimacy is also crucial. If people believe the trade war is about protecting something that truly matters, they're more likely to tolerate short-term pain or disruptions. This is especially important for the country that started the conflict, since the other side can usually claim self-defense. Economic size and diversity are big factors too. Larger, more diverse economies tend to have more flexibility. They can adapt faster, switch suppliers, reorganize production, or innovate their way around the pain. That kind of resilience can be a serious advantage. Then there's leverage. If a country controls something critical, like semiconductors or rare earth minerals, it has bargaining power. If other countries can't find easy alternatives, the one holding the key resource has the upper hand. And alliances? They matter more than people think. Trade wars are a lot harder to win alone. But if countries team up, they can share the economic burden, amplify pressure, and build legitimacy on the global stage. So with all that in mind, how did Trump do? To be fair, Trump raised some valid concerns. He highlighted the massive trade imbalances, where the U.S. was importing far more than it exported. He called out intellectual property theft, particularly from China, and pushed those issues into mainstream debate. And he used tariffs as a tool to force negotiations, not just for economic reasons, but also to combat things like China's expanding influence in Asia or fentanyl trafficking. A few U.S. industries will get temporary relief. By making cheap imports more expensive, domestic producers got a short-term boost. But despite those plus points, the list of missteps is longer. Trump's trade war lacked a clear, long-term strategy. There was no consistent message, no well-defined goal, and no roadmap for success. Even worse, Trump didn't just target rivals. He also hit allies with tariffs, including countries like Canada, Japan, and members of the European Union. That made it nearly impossible to build the kind of coalition that could have pressured China more effectively. Instead of rallying support, the U.S. found itself more isolated than before. The economic consequences are also very real. Tariffs are essentially taxes, just embedded in a product's retail price. Americans ended up paying higher prices for everything from electronics to groceries. Those costs rippled through the economy, hurting both households and businesses. This was made worse by the retaliation that came faster and harder than many had anticipated. China and the European Union imposed tariffs of their own, many aimed squarely at American farmers and manufacturers. That translated into layoffs, lost revenue, and financial stress in the very communities Trump promised to protect. Trump also did not preempt American companies. This denied local companies the chance to stockpile materials or diversify supply chains. And that's a major issue. Many American companies rely on Chinese-made components that can't easily be sourced elsewhere. This made the economic pain worse than it had to be. And politically, concerns about inflation, rising costs, and job losses are rising in polls. While Trump's base remains committed, broader public dissatisfaction is growing. Even now, there's still no serious long-term plan to boost U.S. competitiveness. In many cases, production didn't come back to the U.S. It just moved from China to other low-cost countries like Vietnam or Mexico. So the trade imbalance remains. The only difference is that the origin labels on the shipping containers have changed. So, is Trump likely to win this trade war? He is definitely at a disadvantage. China, for all its own challenges, has stayed focused and kept control over key supply chains. Meanwhile, Trump's erratic approach has eroded U.S. influence globally. But here's the twist. Even if the trade war fails economically, Trump might still win politically. That's because, for many voters, symbolism matters more than spreadsheets. Trump positioned himself as the leader who stood up to China, who fought for American workers. And for a lot of people, that stance alone feels like a victory. Even if he can get just small concessions, he can spin it as a win. For his political image, the appearance of strength often matters more than the actual outcomes. So even if Trump loses the trade war, he could still win it in headlines and in the eyes of his supporters. The real question isn't just whether Trump wins the trade war. It's whether the country can afford the price of that kind of victory.